I'm sorry, neutral coverage of Trump would look like Trump hatred. TDS,
this is the issue.
Like,
yes. The issue is that, like, I need you to write an essay about, like, the meanest teacher that you had in school and Hitler, and I need you to be fair and neutral between both of them. And it's like, if you include anything about, like, the the worst, then it's like, oh, well, now you're being not fair, right? This is the same issue we ran into for moderation on platforms as well. Like, oh, you're being biased against Republicans. Like, I'm sorry, like, 20% of Republicans believe in QAnon. Like, what the is the equivalent on the left for this? Like, there is none. Did you see that poll? The poll between how many people trusted the election results?
Yes.
Bro, this is unreal. That is some cult shit. That is cult shit.
They went from 20% approving of the election to like 95%.
Like, even a 20-point swing would be cause for significant concern. But it was like a 70-point. I was like, bro, what the
Dude, what's going to be great when the Democrats win in 2028 and then the poll goes back down to 20%.
The Elon Musk stuff, everything relating to that is crazy.
Finally, after somebody does it 1,000 times, we're like, all right, fuck it. Here's who's doing it, and fuck them, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, oh no, I can't believe you're saying that about poor Jimmy Dore. I can't believe you're saying that about poor Dave Rubin. I can't believe you're saying that about poor Sam Cedar. I know. Poor Sam, okay? So anyways, yeah. And so look, they claim to be more left-wing, and then they'll work.
I don't give a shit.
No, hold on, let me finish. And then they'll go around and be like, oh, corporatist politicians, yes, establishment Democrats, Kamala Harris. What happened? I thought Kamala Harris was a cop. Now all of a sudden, oh, Kamala Harris lost. What happened? There's only two things that make you cry: when establishment Democrats lose and when we fight back against you. Oh, well, you're not supposed to fight back. Oh, they're so rude. I mean, we only call them Nazis. Why are they fighting back? You see how they're the bad guys? Let's all cry again. Cry all you want. I don't give a goddamn what you do. But if you guys support a corporatist prick in the next primary because of identity politics or any other bullshit, I'm gonna let everybody know that all of the things you've ever done in your life was apparently totally and utterly fraudulent. And all you wanted was to get some pats on the head from the establishment. We're populists. Are you guys populists? I don't see that at all. Oh, cheer for the establishment, yay! Okay, go ahead, do it in the next primary. Go support Pete Buttigieg in the next primary or Gavin Newsom. Let me see you, okay?
Is Anna poisoning his brain? Why do they hate Pete Buttigieg? I sincerely believe that the overeducated thing plays, like, people on the left are also against, like, the intelligentsia or whatever. Like, Pete being able to speak for, I feel like I specifically heard on the Young Turks them making fun of the fact that, like, Pete could speak 5 languages or shit like that. Like, that type of, like, intellectual, whatever, white person. Like, I think for my community, as a community oriented towards tech gamer men or whatever the fuck, like, we might appreciate that. But I think for people like this, I think these guys don't like that type of speak. Feels not good. It feels like donor class speak. Pete Buttigieg, he seems like the kind of guy, he just looks to me like the kind of guy that would deny your insurance claim with AI. That's what he feels like to me. Bro, he knows like 7 languages. I feel like at some point learning more languages doesn't count though. Like, if you can speak like Spanish and French, like, do you really get credit for learning Italian too? Like, there's gotta be like a marginal, like, come on. Or if you know like Spanish and French and Portuguese, like, we get it. It's like 10% effort to learn the next language. You don't get credit for that. That bullshit. Get mad. All these multilingual people. I speak 6 languages. Like 4 of them are a dialect from their country. Get out of here. I speak American Southern, Midwestern, Coastal, Elite, Gay. Hey, what's up? Wait, it's 1 paragraph? Okay, hold on. Never mind. Then, okay, he gets props for that. Okay, thank you. All right, never mind. I've already significantly elevated my opinion of his manifesto. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. Okay, this was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, and a lot of patience. What is... Fuck, I should know what CAD is. Isn't that like 3D printing or some shit? Or making shit? What is CAD again? Some kind of...
I think you're right, Stephen.
Think I'm right about what?
I have no idea. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Oh, because his gun was 3D printed. Yeah. I'm doing okay. Let me just read this. It's going to be like 1 minute.
Sure.
Okay, hold on. The Spiral Notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. Reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the indecipherable largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? Nice typos. No, the reality is these blank have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. Okay, but I am qualified enough to kill somebody, but okay. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g. Rosenthal and more, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. Wow. Okay. Okay, what's up? Oh yeah, I was saying Pisco.
Yeah, well, that's something we can all get behind. That can unite the right and the left.
He's too optimistic.
Pisco.
I don't like it.
He's optimistic about what?
Just everything in general. His optimism is disgustingly infectious. I feel like I need to get vaccinated against his optimism. Like before I go and talk to him, I have to like watch like 50 clips of the most unhinged media people, and then I can.
Well, if you're going to get vaccinated, you better do it quick before RFK becomes Health and Human Services Secretary. Otherwise, you won't be able to do that.
True.
All vaccines will be outlawed everywhere under penalty of death.
Absolutely true. Well, assuming you don't die already from taking them, because they're all killing you.
True. Exactly. Yeah, no, 100%. I saw somewhere, local obituary, that a 90-year-old died here in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
First thought, he's probably vaxxed.
Probably.
He probably got the jab.
Probably, yeah.
Bro, I watched your Glenn Beck Anna thing because I didn't watch the full thing myself, so I watched you watch it.
What a horribly
it's pretty unhinged shit.
Stupid. Ugh. I mean,
Where you are, man.
I feel like
we're
it's
losing
just,
allies.
I feel like it's just a meme though, but I feel like this is all like meme shit. Like I just have to take a step back and realize that it's all like performative meme shit. You ever notice when you watch these like media expert, how much do you spend time reading or researching shit?
Yeah.
Okay, because you bring like stories and you have like, oh, this happened in the whatever, and you know, yeah, you have. What do these guys do with their free time? That like one of the things that bothers me is when I watch a lot of these media pundits talk, especially to each other. They when they talk, they're giving. It's like these are supposed to be like our best and brightest in the field, but they're giving like lines that are like I would expect like an average conservative on the street to say this shit. Like there's nothing like insightful.
Yeah, so for me, it's not even that I disagree with her on some of the things that she says because I think that's inevitable. To me, it's like when she just flat out fucking lies. That was the thing that killed me. Like,
I started to really sour on Biden when, in my opinion, he was pretending to fight for his agenda. And part of his agenda was to allow for our Medicare system to just simply negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies. Believe it or not, and this is the most anti-capitalist thing imaginable, right? Because capitalism, you're supposed to have competition. You're supposed to welcome negotiation.
Yes.
Our Medicare system not allowed to negotiate drug prices. So he was pursuing a provision in his Build Back Better plan that would allow for the negotiations to happen. Well, then they whittled it down to 10 pharmaceutical drugs. Oh, what can we do? You know, this is the thing. The Democrats like to play good cop, bad cop. So you'll have the majority of the Democratic Party, in the Senate in particular, pretend like they're all on board with Biden's agenda and the idea of having Medicare negotiate drug prices.
We have the same problem in the Republican Party, by the way.
And then you always have the bad cops who are willing to raise their hands and basically torpedo that provision. And that's essentially what happened with Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. But don't make the mistake of thinking they were the only ones, because sitting on the bleachers waiting were other corporate Democrats who would step in if they needed to prevent the passage of that provision. And so I love what—
We're not going to talk about every single Republican in lockstep who voted against it. I love how you have Glenn shit Beck over here, who is an unashamed deep throater of every single conservative. He's like, oh yeah, keep going. Yeah. Oh my God.
on the Medicare drug negotiations, I was listening to it. I'm like, I'm 90% sure that's not right. And it's not. The Inflation Reduction Act permits Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices. Now it's like 10 at a time. And if she wants to complain about that, I mean, that's fine. But don't lie and say that, Biden only allowed the negotiation for 10 drug prices. And by the way, let's just say that that's true.
It's still
that's
more
10
than
more. Yes. That motherfucker also promised to negotiate prescription drug prices. He campaigned on it in 2016 and then totally let it fall by the wayside. So it's like, I was stunned at how circle jerky that conversation was. And listen, I don't mind a good circle jerk conversation, but to have one with Glenn Beck, like of all people, and I don't know, it's really, really gross. I don't think she could have it with you. Like, obviously I know you would challenge her, but I mean, that notwithstanding, like, I think she would be more inclined to fight you. Or to fight Sam Cedar or me or Beasley or Packman. Like, I just imagine she has more contempt for people on the left than she does the right.
Yeah. You remember how I said that I hate the fact that it feels like liberals in general, like when they're in office, are held to such insane standards? Like, why is it that when we're talking about whether or not we pass some piece of legislation, the Democrats are to blame because of Manchin and Sinema? Why is it that those 1 or 2 votes are the things that we talk about? Why don't we talk about the 50 fucking no votes on the other side? What the fuck? How is it the fault of the Democrats for having 1 or 2 defectors, but not the 50 no's on the other side? Like, we're just ignoring that? It's insane.
Well, that's because, Stephen, you don't appreciate that those two, Manchin and Sinema, they're a smokescreen, buddy. You got to read between the lines. It's actually 50. It would be 100 no's. But the Democrats are just smart enough to scapegoat. Yeah, exactly. To your point, like when the child tax credit sunset, right? Biden tried to get it renewed, and Manchin. So there was 1 Democrat that voted against it, Manchin, and 50 Republicans. And all TYT complained about was Manchin. But it's like, yeah, to your point, you can't. How does the math work? How do you square that? Where Democrats, I would even understand if you just blamed Manchin, and for some reason, skipped over the 50 Republicans. It would still be irrational, but at least I could wrap my head around it. But instead, you blame the Democratic Party for one specific Democrat, and you treat him like a monolith, even though the 49 other Democrats have voted in contradiction to it. I know. I totally take your point. I don't know. The other thing I got thinking about was she complains that the Democrats were too cozy with Liz Cheney. And that's something that the 2024 election. Well, listen, that's something that the post-election autopsy, that's something we're going to have to figure out. But here's my point. If you object on principle to Democrats making allies of circumstance with Liz Cheney, how the can you justify doing this with Glenn Beck? Like, isn't the logic exactly the same?
Also, why? I agree with you. Like, I think I wrote this down on one of my things. Like, for some, it's this idea that a single act is enough to crucify a Democrat, but like a single act is enough to save a Republican, right? That like, if a Democrat were to talk to 9 good people and 1 evil person, he would be held to account for that 1 evil person. And if a Republican were to talk to 9 evil people and 1 good person, people would say, well, he did talk to this 1 good person at least, right? Like, the double standards are insane. Like, how is it that Kamala Harris, like, accepting a nomination from, from Cheney, is like enough to I guess to attack our entire campaign. I remember, I think they had to bully him in 2016 for Donald Trump to finally, I don't even know if he ever did disavow, was it David Duke or whatever that supported his campaign? And I think initially
he kind of gave like a half-assed walk back from what I remember, but
I think eventually
like a full-throated.
Yeah, but like it's never the same. Like, Donald Trump has engaged with so many different people, and but it doesn't matter. Like, none of it hurts him or none of it matters at all. He had dinner with Fuentes and Milo, right?
Yeah.
You remember that? Yeah.
No. Wait, that was Kanye. Wait, was it Milo Yiannopoulos? I thought it was Kanye and Fuentes.
I don't know if Milo was there as well, but Fuentes was definitely there. Ye was there, and Trump was there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it really is. It really is gross. Do you think that Anna is grifting, or do you think it's like a sincere emotional backlash based on like the birthing person thing or the homeless person thing, or is it a combination therereof? Like,
I don't even know at this point. It's impossible to tell. Like, are these people just all like really stupid? I really don't know. I have no idea. I don't even know if I care to even know the answer. I don't know what would be more depressing, if it's like legitimately evil or this is your full-time job. Do you remember when Anna was in that clip when she was talking about how, like, I can't believe we didn't even talk about, what was it? Fuck. Somebody in chat tell me, did you see this? Where she's like, I can't believe we didn't even cover like the Russiagate or some Trump thing or whatever. And then Cenk was like, no, Anna, we literally talked about this for days.
Oh, yeah. And then she goes, oh, yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay. Look, I don't know how anyone else feels. I'm only speaking for myself. I regret not reporting on the Hunter Biden laptop story in 2020 because I, like everyone else, was a sucker and I fell for the lie that it was a Russian influence campaign and nothing more than that, and you shouldn't draw any attention to it. Did anyone really think that the Hunter Biden laptop story was going to convince Biden supporters to stop supporting Biden?
No, but Anna, you're remembering wrong. We did report on it. We had long conversations about whether it was real or not real, and Rudy Giuliani had dropped it off at the
We
place.
did report on it, right? But I
and
guess...
the guy that did the found the laptop was blind, and we were kidding around about it.
We did. Thank you for mentioning that. I had actually forgotten about that.
And it's the brain rot is
what's
real.
happening here? Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's sad because
the Biden laptop thing, yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. And which again, I'm sorry. I don't think these things are comparable. I think you could, unless you are truly a journalist, but if you're a political commentator, I think it is eminently justifiable for you to not talk about the Hunter Biden laptop thing because there is just, at the time, based on the information we had, there was no substance to it. And even now, there is no substance credibly implicating President Biden. Who gives a fuck if Hunter Biden is nepotistic or Hunter Biden was trying to cash in on his dad's name, unless you have evidence that Joe Biden knowingly courted it, aided and abetted it, it's irrelevant. Like right now, Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, like they're lobbying Ron DeSantis to appoint her unilaterally as the new Florida senator once Marco Rubio leaves the Senate to go be Secretary of State. And that's on top of the, unhinged nepotistic shit from Trump term one with Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. So it's like the fact that you have a president-elect pressuring a Republican governor to appoint his daughter-in-law to be a member of the United States Senate, that in and of itself, I'm sorry, is just objectively orders of magnitude more important than anything on the Hunter Biden laptop. Nobody's talking about.
And like her saying that like the Democrats weren't pro-union when Biden was literally the first president, I believe, in all of U.S. history to walk a picket line.
Oh, but you see Cenk react to that? He's like, yeah, they say, he walked a picket line, but we had to fucking drag him to it. And it's like, but Trump didn't do it at all, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, so, you're still planning on doing the omni-liberal media enterprises make you just want to like fucking retire from politics altogether and say,
I think I'm just waiting. I'm pretty sure my mood will pass, but like watching all of the just watching the media and everything right now just feels like super depressing. That Trump interview on, was it NBC?
Yeah, Meet the Press.
Yeah, like I just feel like a retard. Or I don't know what I'm doing here. I feel like this is not like I should just be like in like a PhD writing like the essays at some losers or some Substack post. Like just like watching these interviews, like what are we even doing here? Like how do you ask Trump a question and then he tells a blatant lie and just go to the next question? This is the liberal media, by the way, right? This is supposed to be the liberal biased media. What the fuck is he? What am I watching? It's just like the most joke shit in the world.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things that few people talked about in comparison was like a really blatant lie. I mean, he told many, but one of the more blatant lies was he peddled this falsehood which came up during the election. It was like in September that Biden let 13,099 undocumented migrant murderers out into the United States. They're roaming the country. They were released under Biden. And Welker fact checked him kind of tepidly. She said, well, I'm pretty sure that was over a span of 40 years. And he's like, no, it wasn't. It was in the last 3 years under Biden. And then she never followed up
and it's
with
like,
it.
So he just gets to lie like that? Like it literally was over the span of 40 years. Yes, that's where that number comes from by ICE. Yeah, it was literally. Yeah, it's just like, what is the why? What are we doing here? Yeah, it's just so stupid.
So that's why you say fuck Pisco, because he's trying to make you optimistic in an otherwise nihilistic time.
I don't know, man. Jesus. Like I said, I'm sure I'll get over it. But right now I'm just like learning stuff. We're doing a macro econ course, finish it by Federalist Papers, We just increase our knowledge base. I need to be looking into the DNC races more too, but I'll probably do that starting tomorrow or something, yeah. Do you know when do they hold that election?
I'm not sure. I just watched Ben Wickler of he's the chairperson of the Wisconsin Democrats. He's running. He threw his hat in the ring for DNC chair. He'd be a really good one. And he was just on Jon Stewart. It was a good interview. You should definitely check that out.
Okay.
But I'm not sure when they're holding that particular
February
race.
1st, apparently.
He's the only one off the top. Like, I'm not aware. I know there are others who are competing with him. I think a former like Bernie Sanders campaign co-chair is also in the running. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those like positions that you don't talk a lot about, but it's like it's a big deal. Jamie Harrison was the previous one, and he was the guy who ran against Lindsey Graham during Lindsey Graham's last election. And it was one of those things where he out fundraised Lindsey Graham to hell and back. Lindsey Graham was having meltdowns on live TV, crying. He's like, "They're killing me. I need your help." And then Graham kicked his ass anyway in the final vote. But it's a big deal because they set the direction in terms of fundraising and in terms of the allocation and dispensation of funds. And it'll probably be a good like bellwether for the direction that the party goes in the future. So I think that somebody like Wickler, who, Wisconsin's, it's a purple state, and Democrats have made up a lot of ground despite the institutional disadvantages. Because as when DGG was campaigning for the Wisconsin Supreme Court seat, I mean, they've gerrymandered that state to hell and back, and they've done everything in their power to institutionalize their power. Hey, where are you on gerrymandering now? Because I know you've like, I
haven't read any research on it. My position before is that like gerrymandering, you just can't. There's no way to draw fair districts. It's impossible to do it. Is my last understanding. Maybe there's been some updated research or something since then, but the reality is that if you draw quote unquote fair districts that look normal, Democrats will always be massively disadvantaged because they just tend to live closer together.
Cluster. Yeah, they cluster. They tend to occupy like major urban areas. So they're going to have to get geometrically wonky. To your point, it's not like you can have a bunch of squares. I mean, I
think maybe it'll come up in the Federalist Papers. I don't know why districts even exist for the House. I don't know what the structural purposes for it, because your House of Representatives is supposed to be people that go to the federal government to represent your state in matters of federal administration. I don't know why we have to have individual districts that send congressmen. I don't know why it's just not like a blanket number given for the state. I'm not sure, but maybe it'll come up, or maybe there's something I'll read more on that and get convinced of it or whatever. Yeah.
Are you enjoying your Federalist paper read through?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. All feel pointless and retarded, but
it's amazing to think about what the founding fathers, like some of them might think, like, I am a big George Washington simp. He's my favorite president. And it was one of the things that Mr. Beat and I bonded over. And it's interesting because if you read Washington's farewell address, like, he predicts so much of this. I mean, he all but gives Trump's social security number at the end when he talks about, like, cunning, unscrupulous men using the levers of power and factionalism to, take power and then to try to basically pull the ladder up behind him. And I mean, obviously the founding fathers did some fucked up shit with like slavery and disenfranchising women and all that. But it's like we're so far afield from like the civic vision and statesmanship of what like the founders intended. And it's interesting to think that we've just gone from Washington all the way to Trump.
Sure.
The best
boy, what's up, baby?
It was definitely FDR, to be fair. Josiah, all right.
He is the third best president.
Oh my God. Listen.
Yeah. Listen.
Washington and Lincoln, they take a back seat to old FDR.
No, well, they take a backseat to Trump, I've been told. He's like, they tell me, sir, Washington and Lincoln could come down and they could run on the same ticket. And, sir, they would not have beaten you with your campaign.
Oh, my God. Listen, I was going to ask you guys, because you guys seem a little bit doomer about the media's coverage of Trump. But my sense of the media's coverage of Trump from 2017 to 2021 when he was actually president was like, I mean, it was pretty negative. I don't know. I feel like I saw a lot of CNN and MSNBC.
No. It was. I mean, I can't speak for Steven, but I think what I'm saying is I think
Wait, what do you mean when you said negative? Like it was bad, or they showed negative things about him?
They showed negative things about him.
Oh, good. Deservedly so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, because I think, Josiah, we've spoken about this on Live and Learn, where it seems like there's been a lot of frustration about the sort of like maybe more softball-y type interviews. And I mean, sometimes like when Trump was president the first time, yeah, I mean, sometimes he would get a slightly softball interview, or like people would be criticized.
Sometimes.
Well, but you have to keep in mind with Trump, he takes like every conceivable interview, right? So yeah, I mean, of the thousands of interviews that Trump's did, I'm sure that some of them are softballs, but There's a
No,
lot
most
of
of
interviews.
them, most of them, baby, most of them, most of them.
Most of them. That's an
Most of them.
interesting. Well, if you include the Fox News, I mean, the right wing media, if you include them,
Yes,
maybe most.
No, listen, right here, we
Yeah.
got to check your thinking. You can't
Okay.
exclude Fox. They're the
Technically.
single biggest and most
No,
successful
Josiah,
legacy.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
I'm not saying we shouldn't exclude them. I'm just saying that I don't have any expectation for Fox News as a news network. Right? Like, I don't expect them to be anything other than a propaganda arm for the
You
Republican
probably
Party.
shouldn't personally, but the public-facing expectation should be very high. Like, I mean, I agree with you. Personally, do I expect Fox, like, anytime Trump is on the scene? But everybody should still bitch about it. Like, you guys call yourself, I mean, the motto used to be fair and balanced. You call yourself a news network. Like, you're supposed to hold power to account. Close your eyes and pretend you're interviewing a black woman or a black vice president or something like that. Like, try to impose this. Like, that's the one thing about CNN and even MSNBC. Like, MSNBC gets shit, but Stephanie Ruhle, I think she did one of the first interviews with Harris after Harris got the nomination. She was asking Harris tough policy questions. How specifically are you going to cut prices? How are you going to, reduce, the cost of living in this country? And then she asked follow-up questions. That's MSNBC with a fucking Democrat,
Yeah. Well, but the Fox, I mean, I don't know. For me, I just, so I'm not saying that what Fox News does is good or that it's neutral. It's obviously bad. I don't think you should be a propaganda arm for a political party and call yourself a news network. But I guess I just, that's the media ecosystem that we've built. Those are the institutions we chose, right? Fox News is a privately owned news network, funded by a billionaire and for-profit entity. And so I don't know. I feel like the response to like Fox News being a propaganda outlet shouldn't be, we're so disappointed in Fox News. It's like, well, no, but that's just, almost we should have more of an institutional critique if that's our problem.
I don't think either of
Other
us
than
are
that,
disappointed in Fox News right now. I think we're disappointed in our arm of the propaganda media because they exist apparently to do also propaganda for the conservatives.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we're upset about right now.
No, that's what I was going to say. If we're just talking about the liberal news media, at least, again, even when it comes to the liberal news media, if there is such a thing, we could say that I feel like there certainly were softball interviews that Trump got from some liberal news anchors, but there were also some tough interviews that he got from Fox News anchors, like what's the guy's name? He's like 80 years old at this point, but he was like the guy who was at Fox News and now he's at CNN. He got a lot of credit for
Chris Wallace.
Yeah, like he was an example during Trump's.
Why do you guys always? I don't understand why you guys always do this. Josiah, I need you to translate this, or I'm gonna fucking lose my shit.
Oh, no.
Every single time somebody comes on to defend the insane fucking double standards, and they go, "Oh well, no, look, this guy did this to Trump." Why do they always give examples of people whose careers were fucking obliterated for standing in Trump's way? Can you explain this to me?
No, I mean,
yeah,
listen.
so-
Go ahead, buddy.
Well, no,
Like
I was just gonna
Wallace,
say,
like
again, I'm
nobody
not-
in the Republican Party likes Wallace anymore, right? I don't even know if
No, they hate his guts.
they hate
his
him.
guts.
Like they're like, oh, well, what about that one
Right.
time this guy stood in front of him? Oh, that guy whose career doesn't exist anymore now? Yes, thank you. That proves the
all
point. Like what?
No, Destiny, all I'm saying is that I expect when Trump takes office that predominantly the coverage from MSNBC, CNN, these types is going to be, pretty much entirely negative towards Trump. Like, I don't have
We'll
reason
see.
to believe that these institutions are going to be like, okay, we saw like when CNN, they had that CEO who took, the CEO that CNN had for like a month who tried to make CNN this super neutral, news network. And
Yeah,
I think
Chris
he
Licht.
left after. Yeah, like that turned out to be a total disaster because the viewers of CNN are like, we don't want neutral coverage of Trump. We want you to hate Trump, And
Well, no, I'm sorry. Neutral coverage of Trump would look like Trump hatred. Like TDS.
This is the issue. Yes.
True,
The issue is that like I need you to write an essay about like the meanest teacher that you had in school and Hitler, and I need you to be fair and neutral between both of them. And it's like if you include anything about like the shit that the worst, then it's like, oh well, now you're being not fair, right? This is the same issue we ran into for moderation on platforms as well. Like, oh, you're being biased against Republicans. Like, I'm sorry, like 20% of Republicans believe in QAnon. Like, what the is the equivalent on the left for this? Like, there is none. Like, yeah. Did you see that poll? I read it backwards because how it was even how it was displayed originally. The poll between how many people trusted the election results.
Yes.
Bro,
Oh
this is unreal. That is some cult shit. That is cult shit.
It was no. The thing is, it went from like the thing is, it wasn't just that there was a difference. It was like they went from 20% approving of the election to like 95%.
That's an unbelievable. Like even a 20-point swing would be cause for significant concern, but it was like a 70-point. I was like, bro, what the.
Dude, what's going to be great when the Democrats win in 2028 and then the poll goes back down to 20% immediately.
And listen. I'm sorry, but not to pat the Dems on the back, but I'm going to. The fact of the matter is, you only saw a 10% reduction. Went from 94% Dem support to 84. I mean, ideally it would be exactly the same, but 10 compared to 70, stunning.
Yeah, I mean the Republicans definitely have a bigger problem with just generally being crazy. I would agree with that. I just think that
don't tell Anna that. Anna has assured me that actually it's the opposite.
Oh my God! Look, don't even get me started on all the shit with Anna and fucking Emma Vigeland and Anna are like going back and forth on Twitter right now, and it's like the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, no, I guess generally speaking, though, I would just expect that the predominant coverage coming out of these like more left-leaning news, environments and ecosystems, whether it be like written, New York Times, Huffington Post, or more, I don't know if you call it visual news, places like CNN or MSNBC would be, pretty negative on Trump and his policies, just because I guess, like you guys said, it is actually pretty bad stuff. But also that the political leanings of these guys is like, well, we really don't like this stuff. It's really bad. But I could be wrong. I don't know. We could see.
Well, did you not see the end of that NBC Meet the Press interview? Like I bitched about this to Steven. I'll bitch about it with you, which is Kristen Welker, who fact checked Trump a couple of times. I mean, it was pretty weak shit. But the problem at the end was the way she left the interview. Like, to me, that was the most egregious part. It wasn't just the tepid fact checks and the lack of follow up. It was she shook his hand, said, "Sir, thank you so much, sir. It was an honor, sir. Thank you so much." It's like. What a
I mean, like the Morning Joe guys got criticized for substantially the same thing.
And they're hemorrhaging viewers. Fuck them. They're hemorrhaging viewers 100%. Yeah.
But Josiah, that's kind of exactly what I'm saying is that I wouldn't be surprised if there's some examples, or not even some, like if there's like a good amount of examples of like neutral coverage or like almost like a sane washing coverage for Trump from some of these like anchors on left-leaning news agencies, but I think that the viewership is not really going to tolerate that for very long. And we saw that with CNN, like I said, when the CEO had to get turned over so quickly because he tried to do the same thing, and the viewers are like, no, like we're not watching you anymore. And like the market just seemed to correct that, honestly. But maybe I don't know, maybe it'll be different. I just feel like especially Trump, if he does what he says he's going to do, he's going to be so unpopular that negative news coverage of Trump is just going to be like in high demand. And so I don't really see why the news networks wouldn't deliver.
Why do you assume that people are even going to think that it's his fault, though?
I mean, I think in 2017 and 2018 when he first took office, and again, I'm open to, I don't know, maybe draw the link for me. Maybe things are so different now, but when Trump took office in 2017 and things were better, and also he didn't do as crazy a stuff as he's promising to do in his second term, he was still extremely unpopular.
Wait,
right?
What do you mean when, or what are you talking about in like?
When he took office in 2017.
He was in terms of his popularity being unpopular, yeah, but I think it's because presidents are becoming more and more partisan, so his overall popularity was unpopular. With the Republicans, though, he's always enjoyed like pretty extensive popular support, I think. So yeah, he's been less popular with like Democrats, sure, but.
Right. But I'm saying that these Democrats, they choose particularly news agencies to interact with and to consume. And I think that these news agencies, especially in the midst of what is probably going to be a historically unpopular president, assuming Trump does what he says he's going to do, are probably going to have, overwhelmingly very negative sort of biting coverage of Trump. Obviously, with some exceptions along the way, of course. I mean,
sure. I mean, I hope that's the case. It feels like right now all the media companies like bought into all of the misinformation and have mindfucked themselves into thinking that like the election was actually a landslide loss, and they were actually totally out of touch with the American people because Trump did win the popular vote by 15 million votes, and it was like the largest landslide election, win of like the past like 100 years. Like I think it feels like all the media companies have believed this, and now they're like, oh. We need to dramatically and completely alter our approach and just be way more friendly towards conservatives. Like, and again, I know I'm young and we're all young and, everybody's like, oh, it's always the worst it's ever been. But there have been like so many things that on their own are like the most disqualifying, insane, like even past like all the crazy J6, like the Elon Musk stuff, everything relating to that is crazy. That a private citizen bought a whole media company to leverage the entire thing to get a president elected. Like there are 7 different facets to this that on their own are all fucking insane. And like nobody cares about it. It seems like nobody's really even talking about it that much. Like where they're, but I don't know. Like, does anybody care that the richest man in the world is like, I saw Anna and go back and forth and always be like, we need to ban stock trading. We need to ban stock trading from representatives. Like, meanwhile, Elon Musk becomes $70 billion, wealthier in a single election.
Right. No, exactly. Right. There does seem to be a weird, I mean, with some people, obviously there is a weird blind spot. Like I saw, there was a clip making the rounds today from Jank who was like, I can't believe people would criticize us for taking money from Polymarket. And it's like, bro, isn't your whole thing money in politics? How money is a negative, corrupting influence on the political process? Like, why wouldn't that be the same in business processes as well? So I don't know. There is a weird blind spot of some people, but obviously, at a certain point, it's hard to rely back on the idea of like, oh, well, Jank and Anna aren't like mainstream news anchors, obviously. And I do worry about the same thing that I have seen a lot of coverage of. Like it seems like a lot of the coverage there, it seems like there is a robust debate happening as to like what went wrong in this election. And I do think that there's a pocket of people who seem to be very incorrect in assuming that like, oh, the problem was that the Democrats were too woke. And the problem was that the Democrats didn't kowtow to like conservatives too much. And it's like, well, I don't want like QAnon for the libs to be like, I don't want that to be like the
sure, but it's not just the alternative media. Like to be fair, I don't consume much mainstream media, so maybe it's not necessarily the same on the mainstream media thing too. But like I don't know if there's an easy way to go back and Google and check. But has the mainstream media like disfavorably covered anything that Trump has said or done in the past 2 months as much as they did like the Hunter Biden pardon? Like some guy posted a screenshot on my subreddit, and I don't know, maybe it's just one thing. And again, this is just one thing. I understand. I'm not trying to weigh this.
Pop-up notifications.
Yeah, it was 5 pop-up notifications, all from the Politico, with negative articles about the Hunter Biden pardon.
No, I agree. Like I think one thing you can say about liberal media is that not that the predominance of their coverage is negative towards the Democrats or positive towards Trump, but that there is a tendency to latch on to even the slightest negative story against any Democrat. Like Destiny, you talked about how there was like all this haranguing about Tim Walz and like he got timelines mixed up and like he's lying about his military record. It's
Tiananmen
like
Square.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, guys, like the story to this is like, dude, he's old. Like this was like fucking 30 years ago. Like he probably just literally just didn't remember correct. Like
you're such a fucking DNC shill if you don't see obvious parody, the obvious moral parody with fudging a date from an event 30 years ago and not committing to a peaceful transfer of power. You fucking DNC shill.
But I'll say the difference between now and when Trump is president is that Trump will truly be the center of attention when he's president. Nobody's going to care about Hunter Biden basically as soon as Trump is president because Trump will be president and Biden won't be president. And so at least just my general assumption is that while that will continue to be a persistent problem and in 2028, like maybe we're going to be focusing on like, I don't know, like AOC said she was going to ban airplanes while she was, during her presidential
now we
run.
have an added thing because now we have a whole new Democrat. Or not Democrat, we have a whole new demographic that's going to be sweeping for Trump that we haven't fought against before, which is the Silicon Valley tech bros and the whole podcast and comedian circuit. So like before, Joe Rogan was big enough and strong enough and powerful enough that he could get the entire fucking country talking about kitty litter boxes in schools, which is like, in retrospect, funny and inconsequential. But like, what is our media landscape going to look like now that all of this circuit and sphere is going to be constantly sweeping for Trump? Like, is that going to be a new thing to fight against, or...
I mean, I think it will, but I think that's been one of the actually correct narratives coming out of 2024 was not that, Kamala not going on Joe Rogan cost her the election, but rather that Democrats need to do a substantially better job engaging in alternative media and actually creating their own alternative media. And so at least my general vibe is that that's a truth that has been taken away from this election by most elected Democrats and by most sort of Democrats in power. And so my expectation, given that, would be that in the next 4 years, we probably will see Democratic politicians like start to engage more in alternative media and alternative media spaces and create their own alternative media. And the next election, or I should say the next presidential election, is 4 years away. And that's a lot of time to have sort of organic alternative media come to prominence. I mean, part of it is like people, obviously, Destiny, you mentioned starting a similar company, but like, different people starting these companies and growing them out over the next few years. I mean, it only took like 5 or 6 years for this alternative Republican media sphere to become, millions and millions of viewers. I mean,
well, I would
6
be
years
careful.
ago,
It didn't take just 6 years. It was 30 or 40 years or however the fuck long in the making. Like Joe Rogan is not a, made in a test tube Republican commentator. This was a guy that had cultural significance beforehand. It's just somehow all of the culturally significant people that ended up bending Republican, or ended up bending conservative, supported like Donald Trump on the ticket. Like we have left-leaning cultural things, but none of those people support the party. Like if you think of like all the left-leaning power in like Hollywood, right? Places where, or in schools, right? Places where the liberals or the progressives or the wokes are like the strongest. These people also all hate the party. So like on the right, they have like a big union. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think that what we'll see is people like, kind of like what we're currently seeing. We saw this like maybe a year or two before the election. It just didn't come to full prominence, but like we're seeing people like Don Lemon or like Jon Stewart who are not necessarily signing new deals to do new shows at traditional media networks, but rather just like starting YouTube channels and podcasts. And like that's in large part how, at least my understanding is, like the right-wing media sphere kind of starts, the alternative right-wing media sphere starts sort of taking off, is instead of, people like Ben Shapiro, instead of like signing a deal to be an analyst for Fox News, just kind of starting his own thing. And so I would expect basically your traditional media people to sort of bring a lot of viewership into the alternative media space and then build it out organically from there. Or for people to actually start their own media companies and ecosystems. And we see like people like, what's his name? You love him, Jessiah. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name.
Brian?
The Indian
Jesus
reporter.
Christ. Vivek?
The Indian, no, not Vivek, fucking
Dr.
Mehdi
K?
Hassan. Mehdi Hassan with Zateo is doing the same thing. And Mehdi Hassan has been one of the more progressive people who said, like, look, we have to vote for the Democrats, even though obviously you might have these problems with their party. So I expect like all these different efforts to sort of mature in the next 4 years to hopefully maybe not overtake the right-wing media ecosystem in the alternative media space, but to at least be a sizable alternative come 2028. But I mean, I could be overly aggressive with my my forecast on that.
Is Mehdi Hassan
Destiny's
Indian?
gonna make it happen.
No.
Yeah, he's Indian.
Yes?
Why do you think he's not Indian? Yeah, he's Indian. I mean, anyway, but
Hold
that would be
on.
my
We're
assumption.
checking this one out.
Check it out. Guaranteed.
He was born in Swindon to an Indian Shia Muslim parent, or two Indian
go.
Shia Muslim parents. Okay, all right. Barely,
Not all Desi Muslims are
barely.
Pakistani.
You barely
You
got
racist.
this one. Okay.
Unbelievable. He is British first. That's true. But I don't know. I mean, what's you guys' expectation? Like, do you think that these like ventures into alternative media space for left-leaning figures is just not going to be that significant come 2028, or like it's not going to?
I think it will.
It's gonna be significant.
I think it will. So, like, for example, it was really difficult to like get conversations with Congress people. Like, their schedules are like really flexible, or at least that was the excuse. Like, they would make a commitment and say, oh, we got to punch it back or whatever. But like, I just got done talking to Maxwell Frost, who you all talked to right before the election, and it was much, much easier to get a commitment from his staff to like have a conversation. So that's just one data point, but my expectation is that the message has been going out. I mean, Destiny's been talking about it, Brian's been talking about it, David Pakman, and these conversations are actually happening with these people involved. So like congressmen are being told during conversations with Brian and others, like, hey, listen, you guys got to embrace the alternative media space. Yeah, we understand that. No, we definitely got to make a more concerted effort moving forward. So I think you're going to see, unless they get exhausted and just defer to like old habits, and we'll talk only to Jen Psaki and legacy media like on MSNBC, but I think you're going to see a stronger relationship between elected Democrats and left-leaning media. The problem is, I just don't know if there's going to be enough cross-pollination. So like, it seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, that people like Brian and Destiny have to continue to interact more, and Destiny and David and David and Brian. Like, I feel like instead of people staying in their own lane, you have to have like crossover events and stuff like that more regularly. So I'm hoping that that's what happens.
That would be nice, but we need the mainstream media to bro, that Trump interview was crazy. I'm sorry.
You said we need the mainstream industry.
The mainstream media needs to get their shit. We need the liberal bias media.
Oh.
I don't like that. I went through my whole life, and the first time I saw George Soros was when Elon Musk was him for the Republicans. Like, it is insane. What the fuck? Can you tell me what the fuck did George Soros ever actually even fucking do for us? Like, what has he actually funded or done fucking anything? Like, what the fuck has his contribution even been?
I think it's literally just like right-wing anti-Semitism as to why he gets so overly focused on, because he is just like one of a bunch of wealthy donors to the Democratic Party. I think one of my co-hosts on the Three Wonks podcast, he's talked about this before, where he's talked about if you look at the sort of ideological, if you look at the sort of ideology of the big wealthy donors of each party, what you'll find is that the Democrats have less sort of wealthy donor dollars in general. So the Democrats' support tends to be a little bit more distributed, a lot less billionaire support, but they still have their own billionaires. If you compare the billionaires between each party of who supports who, the billionaires on the right-wing side of things, they tend to be very socially conservative and very economically conservative compared to the average person. And the billionaires in the Democratic Party tend to be much more sort of socially liberal, but actually relatively economically centrist. And you can kind of, obviously, you can see how that might affect the messaging downstream, where if you look at MSNBC, it's not like MSNBC is like a socialist left-wing, like dyed in red, news network. It's a little bit more liberal on a lot of these issues, a little bit more socially progressive than anything. But then you compare it to Fox News.
Hold on, wait a second. Is that true?
They're worried about their broadcast licenses.
They're
worried about people attacking them, Trump attacking them. He's threatened them to go after their broadcast licenses. And they're bending the knee. That's why they're doing. That's why Mika and fucking, what's his name? Joe Scarborough went and bent the knee in Mar-a-Lago. They're scared.
What's the evidence for that? Hold on, Pisco. What's the evidence for that, sir? Show me your evidence for that.
Evidence for what? That they're scared?
Yeah.
Call it a strong hunch. Call it a fact that we have him on the record saying that he's going to do that. Trump has threatened that explicitly.
And there was
wait.
reporting.
Hold on, real quick. They might bend the knee. Hold on, I want to go back. My understanding is that like the big donors and everything for the Democrats are actually significantly to the left of the median voter, both socially and economically.
I have not seen evidence that they have significantly far left. I mean, maybe you have an example in your head of like a very economically far left wealthy donor to the Democratic Party, but that I'm not familiar with those type of people.
Sure, I'm leaning on Econoboi.
So on social issues, you're right. Like the average Democratic donor is extremely far left on social issues compared to the average person, but not I mean, people are saying Tom Steyer, Tom Steyer is not like he's not as far left as someone like Bernie or Warren even, right? I mean, he's not like a crazily far left economic guy. I mean, he believes in things like the welfare state, but that's just standard Democratic like talking points.
You should go over this on Lib and Learn or whatever and figure this out. Maybe I'm leaning too much on the David Shore guy.
I don't know. Yeah, but
wait, I wanted to chime in on the Cenk and Anna stuff. Have you guys?
You wanted to chime in on Cenk and Anna? I do not believe you. I do not believe you. I think you know nothing about it. No interest in it.
Listen, because we have to acknowledge both the failings on the legacy media, which I think are fear and incompetence, and then bending the knee on the alternative media side. And I think the Cenk and Anna example could not be more important to point out as a contrast to what we need in like real patriots. You had them yesterday on air talking about immigration, where unironically they're attacking Biden for not being pro-dreamer enough. Anna says that she believes Trump's honesty. Anna says it looks like Trump's really honest about wanting to make a deal with the dreamers. Like, she literally said that. And then they're attacking Biden for not doing enough for the dreamers when it was Trump who rescinded DACA. It's, the first bill that Biden tried to propose to the Congress on immigration contained protections for dreamers. And they're totally bought in and sunk in. It's insanity. It's like, if we can't even get our left-wing media to not be charmed by Donald Trump and believe him at this point, and it's even worse than that, because at other parts during their analysis of the immigration thing, Cenk says the following. Cenk says, Trump really cares about the feelings of his base. So I'm hoping that the right-wing populist base can push Trump to do things and have some common ground. They're all about compromise now, right? They weren't about compromise and finding common ground when it was Joe Biden, but they are now with Trump. And he literally believes and said that the right-wing populist base could push Donald Trump to make a deal for the Dreamers. He is out of his fucking mind. Like the right-wing populist base that wants to deport all illegal immigrants, he thinks in his, I don't know why, he's something's happened to him personally. He's been slighted, but he literally said that the MAGA right-wing populist base could push him towards a deal, and for Trump to be more kind and more dovish on illegal immigrants. That's where we're at. That's what our left-wing alternative media space, like right now, is. It's TYT, who's bending the knee to Trump, and Hassan, I don't even know what he's doing. It's bad. It's really bad. Those are what other outlets right now. I think Majority Report, maybe Crooked Media, those people. But we can't get any good patriotic analysis from our left alt spaces, and it's a shame.
Well,
True.
Destiny publicly threw down the gauntlet. I'm sure Jenk will.
They're not going to do shit.
No one
Josiah.
will. These guys will never.
Never.
You think the bridge is burned?
They're burning bridges with Emma Vigeland.
Yeah, wait. I want Steven to answer. Like, you think that the bridge, because you and Jenk have talked publicly.
I might talk Jenk maybe
times.
on some show or whatever because he doesn't mind screaming, but like Anna or like Glenn Beck, no, I will never.
Oh, fuck you.
No,
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Sorry to clarify. Yeah, absolutely not. There's no way Anna Kasparian will ever have a conversation with you and Glenn Beck. I mean, although you did get Dennis Prager. And
David Pakman did, but Dennis is like, he's barely even like engaged in like politics, I feel like, in the media space at the moment. I guess he's like an XM Sirius show or whatever, but no, yeah, that was.
Doesn't it make you sick to your stomach that these people say things like, I need disagreement, I crave it.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock, of course, it triggers the fuck out of me, yeah. Or even when Anna was on that show yesterday, the only reason I tweeted them out is because Anna was like, yeah, I noticed that people on the right wing are significantly more open to debating these ideas than people on the left. I was like, excuse me? What the? Show me, who is the Sam Cedar of the right? Who is the Destiny of the right? These people don't exist.
Shapiro,
What the fuck?
Destiny.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah. The 57th college debate owner is fucking like, give me a break, dude. It's like I'm the best FPS player in the world because I dropped Tomato Town in fucking Fortnite. Jesus.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers lied about the Colorado Aurora I don't know if did you follow that story, Stephen? Where there were allegations that
is this one of the Venezuelan gangs taken
over all of Colorado, and then it was they just took over these 3 apartment complexes. There was like a comprehensive video. I think it's a guy named Jose or Juan or something, and I watched it and I did my own research that point by point went over every single aspect of TYT's coverage. There's not a chance in hell they're ever going to address it honestly, ever. They have no interest in opposition which can defend itself. They always need to be going on shows to agree with conservatives. That's their whole shtick. Or to go talk about like international politics in Gaza. Then they'll have an actual debate. But not against left-wing people who are going to disagree with them.
Or can you believe Anna saying like the thing that changed my mind on this was when they started busing immigrants to other cities?
It's so personal for them.
Oh,
it's so personal.
My God. If she was like a 22-year-old like YouTuber, then fine. But this lady has been in politics for over like 2 decades. That's all it took to change your mind?
Do you know what they said yesterday on citizenship? So you understand that Trump's is like, we're going to rescind birthright citizenship, right? Yeah. She's like, so she's misinforming her audience and she's placating them and she's giving them hopium. And she's like, it's absurd. They're not going to try to do this because it's like incoherent. What would happen? Like, what would happen to regular citizens? Like regular Americans wouldn't become citizens if you got rid of the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship? Like, she doesn't even know that there are statutes that provide for citizenship by blood. And that the way to get citizenship, the only way is not through birthright citizenship. And that there are other legal mechanisms by which they can try to argue that the birthright citizenship doesn't apply to these people. So the entire time they were saying Trump's actually very honest about looking for a deal for the Dreamers. They were saying, but he's not honest and he's not being accurate and he's going to try to be rational about his statements about rescinding birthright citizenship. All the while, like, misinforming their audience as though it's something incoherent that could never be done to rescind birthright citizenship, when they actually have a plan for it. And it would not disturb like regular citizenship acquisitions by Americans to Americans. That would not be disturbed by what they're trying to do. And they're yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I saw that Sean tried to fact check you by saying, well, she did throw a disclaimer there at the very end about how Trump rescinded President Obama's executive order on.
I know, Jessiah, but it's like the first 10 minutes are like, Biden sucked. He's honest about a deal. And the last minute, we have to be honest with you guys. Like, Trump did like rescind DACA, so you should like figure that into your consideration. Like, what the fuck? The way they talk about Sam Cedar, they're on the verge of tears, yelling into the camera. But when it comes to the CFPB and Elon attacking it, nothing, crickets. They just say, we'll do a little mention here and there. Or when they're talking about like Trump being bad and like saying, I'm going to deport U.S. citizens, they're like, yeah, pretty bad, guys. That's what it sounds like. But when they're talking about Sam Cedar and when they're talking about their critics from the left, they're like, holy shit, the donor class is going to do whatever the donors say. It's a night and day.
Well, here's how you'll, and I'm actually, this is my most curious thing about left-wing sort of media companies and like ecosystems is how the coverage of Israel-Palestine will change once Trump becomes president. I'm actually really curious about that because I could totally see. Now, to be fair, I think that people like Emma and like Sam, like I think that their coverage will be largely the same. But if you know, like if Trump becomes president and then all of a sudden we don't see any videos about Israel Palestine from TYT, it's like, guys, what are we doing here? What's going on? Like, that's going to be really suspicious. I'm very curious how. I mean,
you can go back and check like the whole border riots, the Great March of Return, that lasted for a whole year. Like, how much coverage was there of that? I don't know. You'd have to go back and check the TYT coverage. I will say. I mean,
it's clear that. Yeah, go on.
Thank God for Netanyahu, and thank God. Okay, thank fucking God that they did all of their attacks. And that Syria has gone through and deposed thank God they did this under Biden, because if this shit would have happened like fucking 3 months later, Trump would be taking credit for everything. So thank you for just like hurrying your fucking military bullshit along. Oh my God.
You're giving Netanyahu credit for the Syrian situation?
Yeah, probably, but yeah. I doubt that he wanted explicitly, or I don't know if they explicitly wanted the Syrian rebels to win or whatever, but I'm pretty sure that fucking up Hezbollah probably significantly accelerated the Syrian rebel timeline. But if this would have happened under Trump, Trump would have been taking credit for all of this, like unilaterally.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
He might still take credit for it, actually, saying that, well, because I was going to be elected, they all did this, so who knows?
No, 100%. So that was something else that was pretty funny during that fucking NBC interview where Kristen Welker was like, hey, for the sake of the country and unifying the country, will you at least concede the 2020 election? He goes, just offhand, he's like, no, why would I do that? That's fucking stupid. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, like just instantly, because what we've been hearing from so many centrists and like Piers, again, next time you're on Piers, have that in your back pocket. Be like, hey, Piers, you've been telling me this whole time that once Trump becomes president, he's going to moderate and he's going to consider his legacy and he's going to want to unite and deliver, results to the American people. Why is it that when he's asked point blank, hey, listen, for the sake of unifying the country, will you concede that you lost the election? He immediately dismisses it.
Yeah.
But then my favorite part was he followed up with, you say the country is really divided right now, but I'm not president. It's not my fault that the country is divided. So he's so funny with it. He's like, the division he has nothing to do with because he's not president. But when the economy's doing well, even when he's not president, it's all because of him.
Yeah.
And
I think my favorite thing that Trump said that no one cares about, this is so depressing, is when the lady, she was asking him about like, oh, do you think that Biden, should have pardoned his son? And Trump's answer was like, no, he just shouldn't have said anything. I'm not going to make that mistake. That's why I don't commit to anything here, is because I don't want to be wrong later. It's like, wait, that's not it's not supposed to be that you try to avoid lying by just not saying anything, or that like, yeah, I'm not going to commit to any position here. What if I change my mind or I'm lying about it? It's like, what the fuck? And the fact that he was able to get away with still saying he has concepts of a healthcare plan, he has nothing after 10, whatever.
It's so funny. Biden also spoke today at, speaking of taking credit for things, he gave remarks today. I don't know if you guys saw this, but during the conversation, he's like, and by the way, I learned something from Donald Trump. He's like, I should have put my name on the checks or whatever. Like when he sent out the third round of COVID stimulus, he's like, he said, I know, he said, I didn't sign my name on the checks for the American people. And then he tapped his own forehead and said, stupid. Like, even Biden at 81 is like, I did this ass backwards. I wasn't crude and crass enough. I should have played politics the way Trump did. And it's just funny to see him even recognize it, that this is where we are.
It's a weakness on every level. It's a weakness where people on the left legitimately think that Trump, who tried to kill the Affordable Care Act, they're arguing that he could actually make a good plan for universal health care. Or Trump, who tried to end DACA, is honest about, he really cares about the Dreamers. Like,
yeah, but like, why couldn't we get like the lady who's interviewing him? She's like, what about the ACA? And Trump's like, well, I had a bad thing and I made it better. How? What did you do? Well, didn't you try to defund it? Listen, I might have tried to get rid of it legally, but I protected it physically.
Not physically.
What the f does that even mean?
You did try to have your Justice Department effectively kill it, though,
No.
sir.
Kill it from a legal standpoint, but from
What other standpoint? And it was going to exist conceptually in the hearts and minds of the American people?
To have your Justice Department effectively kill it, though,
no.
sir.
Kill it from a legal standpoint, but from a physical standpoint, I made it work.
In your concepts of a plan, sir.
What is that? Is Obamacare a person? I killed it legally, but physically. What does that even mean?
But the thing is, it's even worse than that, because the way that he tried to undo it legally is related to his legislative change. So he was arguing in court that removing the individual mandate made it unconstitutional, because now that it's not a taxing power, right? Now that it's not a tax, it's not constitutional under the taxing authority of the that the Supreme Court gave in Sebelius. And so, literally, the major change that he made to the Affordable Care Act, he used as the legal grounds to try to undo it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the funny part, Pisco, is if you watch that clip, he's like in 5 different places within the span of 2 minutes. He's like, Obamacare is awful. He's like, it has so many names. He's like, Obamacare. And
20 names.
And then he forgets, like, it's the Affordable Care Act. So he's like, it's just Obamacare. It's got so many names. It's terrible. And he's like, but I saved it. But I saved it, you challenged it legally. Well, legally, I tried to have it overturned, but physically I saved it. But I have concepts of a plan. Just the total lack of consistency. A responsible journalist should have stayed on that the entire time.
Thanks, the Democrats, they're all part of the donor class. They only listen to the donors. They get their orders from the donors. Trump also, he's in favor of the donor class. Trump also, he installed the donor class. He installed the donors. Tank is, I'm giving you what Tank was saying. Tank was saying, Trump's also part of the donor class. He also installed all the donor class in all these positions, but he can also corral people, and so he's not necessarily going to do what the donors are going to do. Like, it is the biggest mind games ever to try. And the reason why he says the Democratic Party is in favor of the Dreamers, he says, because the donors haven't said it's not okay to not protect the Dreamers. That's why Democrats are in favor of it. That's what he literally says. Because donors are not in favor of not allowing them, not giving protections to the Dreamers, Democrat establishments can be in favor of it, but the Republican establishment is still against it. So he's just inserting establishment anytime he wants to say something bad happened in the government by either party. Establishment is just a little
catch-all for populists.
Yeah. Doesn't mean anything. He's saying that the Republican establishment, which really, if you think about establishment as it's used in the traditional context with respect to Republicans, they're accused of being like too in favor of immigration. They want cheap labor, right? They're like Reaganites who want amnesty, or they're in favor of more visas, more legal immigration. But he says that in truth, it's the establishment Republicans who don't want to do anything on the Dreamers, and it's Trump who's like needs to corral them, as opposed to Trump being the most anti-immigration president in like 100 years, and Trump being the one who's trying to push the quote-unquote established Republicans, who are basically everyone who's beholden to him now at this point. I mean, the establishment is Trump. Trump pushing them towards being more anti-immigration. He's completely got it backwards.
Yeah, Cenk seems to be of the view that I don't know, like, maybe he would say no to this, but based on his coverage, it just makes no sense how you could view it any other way. But Cenk and Anna, they seem to be of the view that basically MAGA conservatives and MAGA conservatism is better than the neocons. And that seems like an insane opinion to have.
Oh, I think he would legit. If I asked him, do you think that Nancy Pelosi or Donald Trump is worse? I think
Nancy Pelosi. That's not even a... That's like
close.
saying, like, yeah, I did a lot of calc. Watch this. 2 + 3 = 5. Yeah, obviously, yeah. Wouldn't even be close, yeah.
Well, that's even more crazy. I mean, I think if you were to ask him, like, do you think, like, who would you rather be president, Mitt Romney or Donald Trump? Like,
Trump.
He might say Donald Trump.
He would say Trump.
He would say Trump.
Yeah.
He would say Trump 100%.
No,
yeah.
but if I asked Obama or Trump, or if I asked Kamala Harris or Trump, he would just say, listen, I supported Kamala Harris. And he wouldn't answer it. Yeah, he would just say, I supported Kamala Harris in the election. That's all he would say. And the only reason he would say that is because he knows that if he says, actually, Trump's better, then he can abandon the last. He's done his full Jimmy Dore. He's done his full Dave Rubin. Yeah. But he's pretty much almost there. He's almost there. He's not sharply criticizing any of the donor class of MAGA or Trump. He's going out of his way not to insult Trump, not to be nice to not to be mean to Trump supporters, not to be mean to any of the donors. Like, he does not have any strong words for Elon Musk. Instead, he has strong words for Sam Seder. And he says that Sam Seder is like a fake, and Sam Seder is like, he's laughing that the Majority Report were like crying that Kamala Harris lost. He's laughing at that. He thinks that's funny. When really, like, if you're a true patriot, you would be upset for your country.
A true patriot.
But,
I mean, I think that they just, I don't know. My sense of like Dave Rubin's, I don't know. I don't know if it's just Dave Rubin, but my sense of like his transformation was like, oh, like I'm like a more centrist, like progressive type. I'm a TYT contributor. Then he starts a show, and his show's kind of, oh, I'm just open to new ideas. I'm just open to talking to conservatives. And then he just turns out to be a crazy right-wing MAGA person. And I feel like you can kind of track TYT's trajectory and say they're at the stage of, look, I'm just not like these crazy leftists. I'm just willing to sit down and just talk to the MAGA types. And it's like, man, I have a sparkle of hope that they won't go full like crazy right wing. But I don't know.
If he thinks that if Trump starts doing some crazy shit, the populist Republican base is going to hem him in. He doesn't think that there's any more institutional check other than the bros. That's Joe Rogan and Dave Portnoy. That if Trump starts to do some crazy shit on the border or with immigration, it's the MAGA populist base that they're the real good people that are going to prevent Trump from doing that shit.
Yes, the reasonable MAGA base that has historically.
He's finding common cause with Marine Le Pen in France. I think he would prefer Le Pen to win in France over Macron.
Pisco does not miss a TYT video. He's their number one fan.
Because I was talking them up prior to the elections, not Anna, but Cenk was like, I think doing some good things, giving the right information on a lot of stuff. And like this heel turn is complete, it's total, and they're not in a position at the moment to credibly be an opposition or a leadership force in the left-wing movements. And that's all I got to say.
I mean, I guess luckily TYT has never really, I wouldn't say TYT has ever had like much influence in actual democratic governance, luckily, but so I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think that what you'll see is maybe just a slow dying off.
I'd be careful with that, right? Because didn't Cenk and Kalinske literally co-founded Justice Dems, right?
I mean, that's true, and AOC did come out of there, but I mean, when we think about like, okay, like what's the relationship between AOC and TYT been like literally since the day that she got elected, and it's been basically non-existent, and AOC's kind of seemingly shunned them. And that's actually something that I think plays a part in like the long-term trajectory of their view. Like they've actually been very critical of AOC for a long time, and a lot of their coverage has been, seemingly kind of spiteful towards AOC because it has that hue of like, oh, we're kind of, we're the ones that kind of made you, and you haven't even come on our show since then, and now you're selling out to Nancy Pelosi.
It's so personal, bro. Everything's so fucking personal. And you can fucking tell that when Anna's tweeting at Emma Vigeland, it's bitter as fuck. And every time they give a policy rationale for why they've shifted course or something, it's like, oh, I met a homeless person. My uncle was a MAGA supporter, and he helped me lift a box into my apartment when I was moving. It's all of these kind of trite stories that don't map onto like, I don't know, broader political ideologies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's okay to say, I think it's okay for the average person to say, oh, maybe I was living in a bubble. Maybe I do need to reevaluate things in some generic sense. But obviously, to Destiny's point, if you've been a political, like Anna will say, like I went, I got my master's in political science. Like I'm a journalist. That's my training. If you've been doing this for 15 years and you find yourself on the cusp of what appears to be like a crazy awakening in your politics. Like, what were you doing the last 15 years? Was that just like, oh, yesterday I hung out with some liberals, and the day before I did the same thing, and the day before I did the same thing.
That's
So
what
I
it
just
feels
happened
like,
to be,
Econoboi.
I just happen to be liberal. Yeah.
It literally feels like that. The last thing I'll say on this, because we've been beating a dead horse, is I think there's actual harm to what they're doing. I don't think the people, their audience, which is large and substantial and larger than Destiny's audience, I think that's true, right?
Probably.
They have, like, yeah. They're not ready for 2025. They're not ready for So Help Me God. And they're being sold this hopium that Trump is like a deal maker, and that they might even get some things they want. They're going to cut the defense budget. They're going to get something on the Dreamers, and that there's going to be like a normal. Tank literally says that Trump is a normal politician. He's a traditional politician. That's what he says.
Well, now he is. He is normal. He is the Republican.
No, but I'm
Party.
saying what he says is the donor class historically are the aberration, and the more historically traditional politician is Donald Trump. And he's selling his, and that he's going to wheel and deal, and that when he says he's going to deport U.S. citizens, he's not truly serious about that. He's not truly serious about wanting to rescind birthright citizenship because he's acknowledging that it's unconstitutional, unlawful. Like,
Trump is just a modern day Teddy Roosevelt, Pisco, a maverick.
True.
All
but
right?
like, take it right. He's saying, no, Trump can't do that because it's illegal. It's illegal to do that, so Trump can't do that. Bro, you were the one arguing that he was a fascist leading up to the election, specifically because he was willing to do things that were illegal. He's not going to be hemmed just because it says on paper it's against the law to rescind birthright citizenship. Doesn't mean Trump's not going to fucking do it. And those words are meaningless little black ink on PDFs of the Constitution until and unless someone's willing to enforce it. And you were the one arguing that he's a fascist, that he's coalesced power. And so why would you be so sure that the Constitution is going to hold if it was your diagnosis?
I remember watching TYT.
True. Also, okay, wrap it up. Last points. Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, I remember watching TYT when Trump first announced he was running for president, and they were so sure that Trump was an absolute bona fide grifter and had no foundation for anything that he said, that in the earliest coverage of Donald Trump's presidential campaign, they censored his face. They're like, we don't even respect him as a real candidate. We're going to censor his face whenever we talk about him, because that's how sure they were that he was lying about everything that he says and that he can't be trusted. And obviously, you know, how things change in the last 10 years, I guess.
They love him.
Anyway, good talking, guys.
Later, boys. I love you. Be careful. Be careful, babe. Okay. I just want you to know that if you work for Microsoft, okay? Okay, I just want you to know this, all right? That I have infinite money. I would buy whatever the fuck I need to. I am not buying your shit because you're going to make me use fucking OneDrive and tie it to my Microsoft account or whatever bullshit to make Microsoft Excel or Microsoft 365 work. Fuck you, okay? Just so you know. I'm using fucking shitty LibreOffice or whatever bullshit just because of that. I hate you, and I hate OneDrive, and I hate the fact that you would ever force me to use your dog shit, bullshit, fuck ass online storage backup that whatever is like a requirement. Fuck that, and fuck you. I am using this bullshit, okay?